financially, politically, legally, technologically. His team was legal. They were actually looking at legal issues, even though this man's expertise lay elsewhere. He actually wasn't a lawyer, but was very smart, I'll say that. Said to me, something as mundane as the law, there were just so many roadblocks to a disclosure. And for example, class action lawsuits by people and by companies. So, for example, if two defense contractors had been competing for all these years, but one had unfair access to exotic technologies and the other one didn't, there could be a lawsuit regarding unfair trade practices, and they might very well win. Class action lawsuits by citizens who will claim to have had abduction experiences and have gone through the types of trauma that they've gone through, and yet being denied access to the truth by their government, and really living a life of being ridiculed and isolated and traumatized. There's emotional damage there. Something as simple as legal ramifications, for example, put the fear of God in these individuals, and then you've got all of the other issues, financial. Good Lord, just briefly. I mentioned petroleum earlier. So let's say we find a substitute for petroleum, some kind of free energy, maybe, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's great for us. I'm into it. I'm down with it. Of course, one problem is that there goes the petroleum industry, largely, which we may all applaud, except for the fact that it is probably the largest industry in the world right now and has been for ages, all of which means that stock valuations are going to collapse. Again, most of us poor slobs don't care about that, at least initially, but it will have major financial repercussions. You can rest assured it will cause stock valuations of companies to go all crazy, and companies could easily just lose a majority of their wealth almost overnight. There's something to stop you cold in your tracks if you're one of the decision makers on disclosure.
I think also you look at what just happened in the Gulf, and that one stops me in my tracks when I see that they pretty much killed an ocean, with reckless greed, and we don't need to be doing what we're doing there, and to me that's just a big of a incentive, to bring this new technology out, because
agree.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if we're billionaires, if we can't breathe the air and if our health goes to hell, and people are dropping like flies,
the petroleum, all the world loves its petroleum, and all the world hates its petroleum, and we all need it, and we all want to get off of it. Absolutely, I could not agree more. And in fact, really one of the upsides, if you want to talk about oil and wealth, if we were to find a free energy source, or a free and clean energy source, really it would be a massive wealth creator in our society.
Exactly.
All of the products that you spend money on, most of the money goes into the energy that created that product. And so if the energy is free and cheap, the cost of that product is going to go way, way down. And it's going to cause I think a massive bonanza of economic activity, ultimately. Oh,
I do too. I think you could run these desalination plants that'd be totally affordable. You could create refrigerators that have their own little device on them that don't even need to plug in.
With free energy, you could really truly think about detoxifying a lot of the world. The problems with doing all of that all come down to energy, really, and with abundant, cheap, clean energy, a lot of these problems truly can be resolved if, of course, we have the correct will and the right intention to do it. But I think that's certainly a possibility. So, yeah, I'm all in favor of disclosure. It's going to be the intermediate term, I think, really will be a rough ride in our society. There's going to be a lot of angry people at all the secret keepers, for example. There'll be a real blowback against some of the major institutions of our society. There'll be probably, I think, a resurgence of the 1960s in the sense of a kind of younger generation rebelling against the values of the old. You know, young people can see them saying, "Hey, you suckers have been lying to us your whole lifetime. We're not part of your value system anymore." Seeing a new way, even to the extent of taking psychedelic drugs, like whether, you know, ayahuasca or DMT or whatever, that allows you to, presumably, according to many people believe it, see other entities. If whether that's true or not, I've certainly spoken to so many people who are convinced that it's true. I think we'll see a cultural kind of repetition in much bigger form of what the 1960s was about, including probably riots, protests, people politically, you know, pushing for change.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be an interesting time in a post-disclosure era, no doubt. I also think that we'll be looking at scientific and artistic renaissance in lots of ways. I think it really will bring in an absolutely amazing outpouring of human creativity and scientific effort. So that all of that's going to be, I think, a fascinating period for us to live through. We will live through it. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, I think if we could just shift from that program of just, you know, the greed program and the you know, into more of a service-oriented program, and okay, what's highest and best good for humanity and the earth, and you know, I think we are going to eventually have to go in that direction, basically, because we're not sustainable in the way we're moving right now. But if we could just go in that direction, there definitely would be, you know, some major transitions that would have to happen. But it would be the greater good in the end, you know, the end game, you might say, and it would free a lot of people up. You know, give them a lot more free time, more creative time, clean the planet up. I just see nothing but good coming out of this, but the only negative impact it would have is with the powers that be that are very self-centered, you might say, and look at profit at any expense, and those groups would definitely take a hit.
Well, really what we're seeing would be a world in which everyone, you know, like who wants to be a millionaire? Well, in a post-disclosure world, what if it's the case that everyone is, in a sense, where in terms of physical material wealth, there really might not be any limits, at least in our current standard. The only thing that I'm not sure about, James, would be would people actually cease to be greedy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Now, what it might mean is that we don't have the kind of really nasty competition with each other because because there would be so much wealth and our needs really would be met. That's one way to look at it. We wouldn't have to be fighting possibly so much over control over natural resources as much. Maybe that's the case. You know, when I look at human nature as I see it right now, and I see give everyone in the world all of the power they want, all of the material power that they want, you could make an argument, not a very difficult one, that could be a scary thing. I don't know about you, but I have neighbors that give me pause. and I even have some family members that would give me pause at certain moments. So, you know, and unless we change, I mean, this is what a lot of people think, that we're on a way to a massive shift in consciousness. Well, then, yes, okay, fine. If we are indeed going to do that, that would change it. But human nature as it is right now, I mean, my assessment is I think people want to be good, and they will be good if they're able to be good. And if they are not able to be good, then they won't be. They will cheat, and they'll lie, and they'll steal, and they'll do things to promote themselves over others. And that's why people lock their doors at night.
Yeah. You know, I live in a small town here, and everybody leaves their keys in their car, and it's everybody helps each other pretty much, and it's a pretty good situation here. But I know if you're in the city, you'd lose your car in a moment. And
I was born in the wonderful city of Brooklyn, New York. Grew up really there and in the New York City area. And no, it's not like New Yorkers, by the way, are great people. But they're not dummies, and they will lock their doors at night. I can assure you.
Oh yeah,
and there's crime and things happen. So. Mm-hmm. That's part.
Yeah, I think they also tie crime into the poverty. It's a deep connection there. So
that's right.
So maybe if we could get this poverty level over with and bring a little abundance into that sector, then we wouldn't have so much crime and we wouldn't have to lock our doors.
Oh, I completely agree. Absolutely, I agree. I mean, ending poverty through the application of a new form of energy is a real possibility. And if that is done, how might that change our politics? How might that change how we relate to each other? Certainly it's got to be a much more pleasant situation if we can do that. And believe it or not, we might be able to do it in an environmentally sustainable way if we're able to have a free energy and as well as the political will to maintain a friendly good environment for the world. I
think maybe we got a panel together, like one of the Mandela panels, where there's forgiveness. Okay, look, we're gonna forgive you. You're gonna have to come clean with what's going on, and you're gonna have to shift in a direction that's more service oriented. And
are you talking about the South African reconciliation?
Yeah,
we write
something
about
of that
in our book.
Oh, great! Yeah, I mean that's about the only way it's going to happen, and give these people. What do you call it? Give them a shot, at doing what's right. And who knows? Maybe that would create the shift.
I think it's called the Truth and Reconciliation Truth Commission. Something.
Yeah.
That's really one of the few examples, maybe the only example in modern history of a Truth Commission that actually worked and actually set out and did what it set out to do. And a big part of that was just as you say, James, the concept of forgiveness. In the post-apartheid South Africa, there was a lot of bad feeling. Absolutely, how could there not be? And yet, it was a tremendous act of political humanitarianism and to try to transcend the desire for retribution, so that nation could move ahead in a positive way. And I suspect that, yes, for us to move ahead in any post-disclosure world, a lot of people who are very angry at these nasty secret keepers, I don't know how it's going to play out. I think a number of people are going to go to prison and, pay the price for some of the things they may have done. But I suspect that there's a chance, by and large, that a lot of that will not happen, and we're going to need to move ahead, not behind.
Yeah, we definitely need some kind of a truth panel or something of that nature, because we sure aren't getting it, from any other agency.
No, absolutely. The wonderful world of a post-disclosure world, I guess you could say, and I have no doubt that so many of the permutations that I've thought about and that my co-author Bryce has thought about have been, will turn out to be just non-starters. But I must say, for the past 6 months, we've been really thinking about this, and it's been one of the most fascinating mental journeys that I've had in my life, is to think about this type of a world. If I may be permitted to let people know where they could learn a little bit more about this, I would just encourage them to go to